So a big hello to everyone present here and a lot of good vibes from us to start your beautiful day. So thank you all for finding time and joining today's webinar. My name is Sangari Krishnan and I'm a lecturer at the Department of Psychology and Counseling, Utah. I will be the moderator for today and I welcome you to this great session. So now, before we proceed, I will ask you one question just to check if you can hear me well. All right, so my question is, how are you feeling today? And I need you to respond, I'm feeling fabulous, fantastic, or amazing. So you may only choose among these three options and you can type it in the chat box. Okay, so that shows that you can really hear me well. And I really hope whatever you said becomes true and you will feel as fabulous, fantastic, and amazing as you are. So before we proceed, I would like to tell you how you can communicate with us during this webinar. All right, we will have a Q&A section at the end, but in between, if you have any questions or if you would like to simply interact with us or you have any opinions to share, feel free to type them to the chat. All right, and before I explain what are we going to explore today, can anyone here tell me whether you have a clear mind without any kind of anxious thoughts or not? Can you say that to me confidently that, okay, I have a very clear mind, I'm very positive all the time? Can you say that? Okay, that's fast. Okay, most of the answers are no, no. Okay, come on, let's see if anyone says yes. No, mostly no. Okay, thank you for the responses. I was actually expecting someone would say yes, but somehow, thank you for the responses. So here, the reason why I actually asked this question is because right now, at this moment, I would like you to set in your mind that anxiety is a part of life. You know, sometimes we might think that we have cleared all these distressing thoughts, feelings, or emotions, right? But is that the real case? So please take a look at this picture. Is that the real case? Mind can be clear, you know, empty. So far, I've cleared everything of my mind except Angelina Jolie. Okay, although this is a joke, but it actually it has a point. You know, sometimes we might be thinking that I have cleared everything, but you would say, but except, you know, we might be using this kind of terms. So which means it is not easy to actually get rid of all these anxious or negative thoughts. Right. Most of the time we would be saying that I'm clear, but we still face emotional turmoil. The next minute we say I'm clear. Right. I believe now you can relate to what I'm actually saying. Right. So now, if you have this question in your mind that, okay, so if it is so hard, how am I going to get rid of all this? You know, how am I going to conquer my anxiety? That's why we are here today. Now, that's exactly why we are here today, to explore how to transform from this to this, you know, to learn how to manage our anxiety, how to actually succeed in the workplace, be it university, it can be anywhere. All right, so for this purpose, we have actually invited a professional speaker, Mr. Chokman Song, in order to provide us ways on how to conquer anxiety in the workplace. He is a qualified neuro-linguistic programming NLP coach and trainer. He is also a certified clinical hypnotherapist and a civil engineer. He has MBA from universities in UK, and besides years of experience in the financial and payments industry, he has graduated as a civil engineer, and he also holds a degree in psychology and a certified planner in Malaysia. So while working in the financial industry, Chokman spends time working with executive coaching and also supported teams in financial goal planning. He is the Melbourne City lead for a voluntary US-based organization called Sidewalk Talk, helping people who want to have a listening ear. He is a warm, friendly, and broad-minded person, but most importantly, he is a great human being. So without further ado, let me invite Chokman Song to enlighten us on how to conquer performance anxiety in the workplace. So Chokman, over to you.
I don't know whether I can live up to your expectations of. Can you hear me, Sangari?
Yes, yes, can.
Okay, I don't know how I can live up to what you have just introduced me as, warm and all this, but I'll try to. So, uh, good morning, everyone. I believe most of the people are actually dialing in from Malaysia. So, a very good morning to you, and it's happy Friday to everyone. So, as Sangari said, I am a sort of qualified neuro-linguistic programming trainer and coach. And today I want to actually touch on one aspect of coaching, which is handling anxiety. Now, today I'm going to share with you what anxiety is about and how using one of the techniques, I mean, there's a whole host of techniques, one of the techniques, a simple but effective technique to actually overcome or at least mitigate anxieties. And we're going to talk later about what those anxieties are. What I'll do is, Sangri, if I can, I will share my screen, a presentation slide, but I will not uh, be sort of focusing primarily on the slide, but I will sort of turn it on and off as and when is appropriate. So I hope you all can see my screen now, and I'm going to put it on projection mode.
It's clear, Chapman.
Okay, excellent. So what I'll do is, let me just enlarge my screen on this side as well. So conquering, sorry, I need to just do this. Yes. So conquering performance anxieties in the workplace. Obviously, anxieties is not restricted to just workplace. Anxieties is in our everyday life. And what Sangri was saying earlier, we all have stresses, be it domestic or in the workplace or in the university. So everywhere we go, we have anxieties. The only thing I must say right at this point is that some sort of stress is important for us to move. Without that stress, we will probably not move. We will be just sitting down doing nothing. But however, too much of it, an overdose of stress, is the one that causes anxieties. So let me just have this clear. Now, what I'm going to do is I will talk about what our objectives are in the next 50 minutes. Understand and be aware of what the workplace anxieties are. Secondly, have an overview of how to conquer, how to smash these anxieties. And the third is having a goal and learning and practicing one particular aspect of anxiety beating technique. So these are the three objectives that I will go through in this presentation. And in that, for that purpose, I'm going to work on in the agenda. Well, introduction, we have already done that. Sangri already done that for me. And then the common workplace anxieties. What are those? And when I talk, I would like your interaction and putting in the chat box what your anxieties are, what you face commonly in terms of workplace anxieties or anxieties in general. Then we'll talk about how to handle them and have a go, as I say, a practice run on how to handle that using one of the techniques. Now, before I go on, I would suggest that I'm going to start off with an exercise which requires you to have a piece of pen and paper. So if you don't already have a piece of pen and paper, I suggest you actually go grab one. And then while I talk about interaction, I would love you all to interact with me as I speak, in terms of comments, questions, things that relates to, yep, this point resonates with me, this point does not. Just put it out in the chat box so that we know what you all are thinking. Now I'm trying to expand my screen on my computer so that I can see the incoming chats as well. Hope you have a piece of pen and paper with you. And I would like you to, in that piece of paper, draw a circle the size of a 50-cent coin, roughly, about the size. Okay, so you just draw so everyone can see me. Draw a circle with a size of about 50-cent coin, 50-cent coin, and then I will count to 3. Once I've counted 3, I would ask you to start dotting the dotting within the circle. Start dotting within the circle as many as possible. So let me just start when you're ready. So draw that circle and ready, 1, 2, 3. Stop. That's 5 seconds. I suggest now you draw another circle, a second circle, that's almost the same size as what your first is. And I want you to repeat this exercise at the count of 3. So ready? 1, 2, 3. Stop. I want you to do the 3rd time now. Okay. Ready? Draw the 3rd circle and start dotting. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Stop. This is the final time. Draw the 4th circle. And I'm going to count to 3. So ready? Stop. Now, can some of you put in a chat group whether you see a difference between the last circle, the dots in the last circle, and the first circle? Do you have more or less on the final circle, the 4th one, than the first one? Is there a big difference? As I said, I can't see the chat, so Sangri, maybe you want to.
Chuckman, I think most of them are saying yes. There's a difference.
Okay.
And there's one person said, I just punctured my paper. Yeah, most of the answers are
okay.
yes.
Now, I don't know, thank you so much, Sangri. I don't know whether you realized, or probably the people who said yes or who punctured the paper, realize that you have just been conditioned without you knowing. Actually, the first 3 times I counted 1, 2, 3, and then slapped on the notebook. And the 4th one, the final one, I actually did not even count to 3. I just did this and tap on the book. And the fact that you actually start doing that means that you have been conditioned even without me start doing the 1, 2, 3. And now, how does it relate to what we are going to talk about? This is about anchoring. The minute we are so used to, or after doing a few times something, we are hooked on to this at this moment, slapping on the book to do something. So just like what we have in the past, when we are hooked, our thoughts are anchored to some past events. It could be past events due to, say, fear. You in school, when you were reading something aloud, the teacher scolded you and said, "You're an idiot," or something like that. That is hooked on to your memory. And therefore, over time, you will think that you are an idiot and you can't present and you can't speak. And this is one of the things that I want to sort of tell you how to as easily change that thinking, and that will be later on in the session. So thanks for participating in this exercise. And I will go on to what are the common anxieties we all face in workplace. Let me just tell you,
we had a rehearsal, Sangari and the team are having a rehearsal an hour ago, starting an hour ago. I was more nervous waiting for this thing to start than I have in the past 2 months that I was told to present this, because that weight of not doing anything creates anxiety. And talking about this, presenting to a group is generally one of the highest anxiety causing events in our lives. Of course, many people are very comfortable with it, but that's through years of practice or something. I mean, honestly, if you ask me, if at the start of my career, when I was asked to present, I was shaky, or sweating on my forehead, even my armpits were sweating. That's why deodorant sells so well, I suppose. And so a lot of people do that, and to make it probably not so funny at that time is when I use my tissue paper to wipe on my sweaty forehead, I leave tissue paper sticking onto my eyebrow, and there's like bits of tissue paper white on my eyebrow. So that's not very funny at that time. But look back at it and say, hey, yes, that's a learning experience. So that's one anxiety causing event that I think many of us go through. Another one is, even for the bosses, having a difficult conversation about, say, non-performance, telling somebody, oh, you're not performing well, or even worse, or you're made redundant, you are not needed in this team, you have to look for something else. Those things are nerve-wracking. Other situations, which is very, very common, I think, especially probably in Malaysia and Asia, speaking up in a meeting. A lot of times, we always hold ourselves back and say, hey, if I ask a question or make a comment, would other people think that I'm an idiot? Or has it already been covered, answered somewhere? And is that a stupid question that I would ask? All these thoughts come into our mind, and that causes anxiety. So we were just anxiously sort of sitting there. Should I ask? Should I not? Should I ask? Should I not? So a lot of times it is like this. And I think even if your experience is, the question is not should I not, or have someone said it earlier that I have missed. And when I ask that question, I say, we have already said this 3 times. Why are you asking this question? So these things play in our head. I know a lot of you are from university and you are coming out even soon to take up a job. Job interview is one of those highly stressful situations. So that is this thing of, I don't know how to answer the questions. I am sort of not prepared. I don't have experience. So again, things play in our head. The inner voice that we have sort of keeps nibbling at us and say, hey, no, I'm not good enough. I cannot compete. So I'm good as the next candidate. Now, are there anything that has come through the chat box, Sangri, that people have highlighted and what their experiences are?
So far, most of them, they say, haha, it's definitely me. I felt that. I think they can resonate, they can relate to whatever you have said.
Yeah,
so they
because
said,
it's so common.
Yeah, and especially they're scared of being criticized or being called stupid, whenever they ask any questions.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes people will say, you do the job, you better keep quiet. It's the same thing, you're going to get the same
Yes.
salary, so you better keep quiet. I think in this kind
Yeah,
of situation,
exactly.
right, most of the time when we feel that someone else might be thinking that our question is stupid, or it might have been said before, and I'm asking it again, just admit that, oh, I'm sorry, I missed it. I
Yeah.
think rather than feeling anxious, we can just say, ask it. But if it is already being said, we can just say, I'm sorry, I admit that.
Yes, that's right. And with Zoom calls, probably is slightly easier. Oh, the connectivity is not very good. I saw probably missed that point when you have somebody, if somebody ever mentioned it. So that's a good excuse in Zoom calls, but not in face-to-face though.
Exactly.
So now another one that I personally sort of go through for many years is the sales league table. That means if you are those in sales, you have a table of the top performance right at the a table listing out all the performances of each individual, the top performers on top and the not so good performers right at the bottom. And that caused a great anxiety for everyone, even for the top top performers, because the top performers will need to continue performing, and the bottom performance thinks that, oh, when I'm going to get the sack, oh, how many more days do I have to get the sack? You know, it's like that anxiety will be very, very high when it comes to sales league tables. Another anxiety is actually the deadlines. Well, for university students, the submission of the assignments, those are highly anxious moments. So, and I just want to sort of talk about stress. That's one type of stress and another type of stress. Now, the one that I talk about, like standing, doing a public presentation, you know, say in the bottom of the sales league table or in the interview, I would imagine these are very real stress and anxious moments. But there is also another one when you ask someone, oh, how are you? They say, stress lah. So that sometimes, to me, is not real stress. Pardon me if I'm not politically correct. I just think that these are a claim that I am stressed. I declare that I'm stressed because I'm important to an organization. I am wanted, I'm needed. And therefore, one thing is I cannot say, oh, how are you? Not stressed. I'm so easy. I'm just sitting. My job is so cushy. I don't really have to think that much. And it's so easy. That doesn't come across very well in the organization. So people's response will be, oh, I'm stressed, to show that, oh, they are doing something. I know I'm saying this not to sort of mock this, but this is a very common reply from people. So in order to, like for coaching, we always look at the stress and understand whether it is a stress that you are proud of or a stress that you are really anxious of. So just bear that in mind. I've already sort of mentioned a bit about this. The effect of this anxiety is sweaty foreheads. Sweating is very, very common. Another one is shaking in the voice. You know, when somebody is presenting something, your voice shakes a bit, and sometimes a lot. So this is one of the signs of anxiety. I think that one very common one that we all try to hide is dry mouth. I don't know whether you can see. Probably I'm exaggerating a little bit. Well, there was swallowing saliva, because there's no saliva. Your mouth is so dry when you're talking in a very anxious moment. Your mouth dries up. And that the good thing is, if you are doing a presentation, you can take a sip of water and then continue. But sometimes in meetings you may not have that, and you whether you want to speak up or not. So these things, the dry mouth pops up. Oops, sorry, I did something wrong. I will go back to it as it is. I hope you can still see the screen. Can you see the screen,
Yes.
Sangari?
Can.
Yeah. Okay. So dry mouth, palpitation, the heartbeat faster and faster. You know, it's like body boom, body boom, body boom. That's love heartbeat. That's not anxiety heartbeat, but it is, you know, when your heartbeat faster because you're anxious. Now, The question now is, what do you do with it? I know people do meditation as an example. There is a question that came in before this chat through Utah. Is like, how do you handle this? Meditation is one of them that actually calms the mind. Okay, but the important thing, meditation is only one of them. Or I think probably meditation may sound like too religious or something. Probably just staying silent and not doing anything, not touching your phone and all this helps. But the important thing is to ask for help if you have chronic or severe anxieties. If it's mild, just talk to someone. I think that will be fine. But if you really have something that's stronger, then seek help, because sometimes it is not, mental health is not seen as something positive. There's a stigma to it. So, but I just think that it is very normal to ask for help if you do have an issue. Now, I am going to talk about some of the ways of doing and handling anxiety. In neuro-linguistic programming, there are various ways of doing. There's anchoring, which I will go through in detail shortly. The rest, I'm just sort of highlighting there are some other ways as well. All these ways in some way will look back at your past based on a fearful experience or a positive experience and learn from that experience. So irrespective whether it's anchoring, fast phobia, switch, timeline, and submodality. Timeline is my favorite because you actually go back to a time and say if you have an anxious moment and then handle that moment and then move forward to a confident, no fear future. So that, but because we only can do one activity, I'm going to sort of do anchoring.
Chapman, sorry to interrupt. Are you going to leave this PowerPoint slide like this, or are you going to click slideshow? Because it is not on a slideshow mode right now.
Yes, I know it is. Of the minute I go into a, yeah, is it all
yeah.
right now?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for pointing this out. So what I'll do is I will give you the steps on how to do anchoring. Now, this anchoring, I will go through the steps. I put in a slide in the steps, but when I'm actually doing it, I will remove the slide. So, but you just focus on look at me, so do that, and I will guide you through. Now, let me just, before I actually do give you the steps, let me tell you what anchor is. You started off with doing the dots in the circle. That is an anchor. The tapping, sorry, I touched the keyboard. The tapping on the book just now was an anchor for you. And I just want to demonstrate how easy it is to set an anchor. So this anchor concept comes about through a very famous experiment done by Pavlov back in the 1940s or 50s. And I'm sure many of you would have heard Pavlov's dogs. Pavlov, for those who have not, it is about how this, I don't know what his full name is, Pavlov actually conditioned dogs that every time when he rings a bell, he will offer food and to the dogs, and the dog will salivate. And so when he keeps repeating that, ring the bell, food, the dog will salivate. It's time to eat. But eventually he removes the food and he rings the bell, not the doorbell, the bell. The The dog salivates because the dog somehow is the sound of the bell is anchored to the dogs in terms of its meal time. So that's the concept of anchoring. These are the steps. As I say, I'm going to go through, explain to you those steps, and then we will go through that, and I hope you will participate in looking at this. First of all is to find out what your desire state is. So if you want to be confident, I saw a few questions come in earlier prior to the session saying, I want to build confidence. How do I develop confidence in presenting? So look at what is that desire state. If your desire state is you want confidence, or you want power, or you want happiness, or you just want to be brave, think of what that state, that emotional state you want to have, that you want to develop. I'm just giving a pause to give you a time to just think through that. Now, having thought of, I'm going to use confidence as an example. You can choose power, you can choose happiness, you can choose bravery. But I want to, before you go into choosing, while you're going through that choice of which state you want to be, don't choose calm and energized because they're contradictory. Calm is not moving that much, energized is you're really active. So that is a contradictory desire state. The other thing is, I want to also say, if, I hope none of you are, if you have a huge amount of anger, please do not choose bravery to work on. Now, the reason why is, if you are very angry and very brave, sometimes you may do actions that may not be probably correct, or maybe not legally correct. So don't choose bravery if you have full of anger. Sort out the anger first, then only work on bravery. I mean, I just want to highlight these two key things. So that's the desire state. The second one is actually recall. Recall back, if I'm going to use confidence, recall back at a time when you are absolutely confident. Sometime in the past when you are absolutely confident. Think of that moment, that event. It can be, I just give an example, say you just came up top in class for a test, not even a big exam, a test. Or you may come up, you're confident because you have just been acknowledged that you have done this great piece of work. Or you may be confident because all of a sudden you have been offered a particular job. So think of that event and then look at the feelings, the sounds of that event. So think of what you were thinking during that time when you were absolutely confident. Hear what you heard. See what you saw then. That means you are reliving that moment. And once you have that, then I'm just going through the process now, so we're going to do the exercise later. Then the next thing is to have anchor. That means if you want to have confidence, I give an example. I use, say, my fingers. I hope you all can see me. Fingers, my thumb touching, say, my middle finger, or two middle and forefinger as an anchor. So every time I want confidence, I'll just do this. But you can do anything you want. You can touch your neck, you can touch your eyebrow, you can do anything, any anchor that you are comfortable with. let me just give you an example of people who does anchor and very, very obviously does anchor. Those who watch tennis, Rafael Nadal. Have you seen how he serves in tennis? In every serve, what does he do? He would wipe his eyebrow, and then he will pull his ear. He will, I hope you all can see me, tuck his corner of his collar, and also pull the back of his underwear. Now, I wouldn't suggest you do an anchor by tugging your underwear because I don't think that would be appropriate, but that's what he does. Another person that very common that you see in football is when they walk in the pitch, they go down and pick up a few blades of grass and pull and throw it up in the air. Have you seen that? If those people who follow football, you will see that they will go bend down, pull up a few blades of grass and throw it in the air. Observe this. To them, some of these are anchors. As I say, you can do any anchor that you want, as long as you can do it. And say if you want confidence, you are presenting, you can still do it. Don't try to touch your fingertips to your toes, because every time when you do presentation, then you have to take your shoes and touch your toes before you can go up stage. So don't do that, please. So do something practical, and fingers is the most simple, because even if you are presenting and you are gesturing, you can still do this without anyone knowing that you are anchoring. Okay, so those are the steps. I mean, the next one is you break that you come back to the present and then you repeat this. So I'm going to remove the screen share, and then we will do this together. Shall we not?
Yes.
So, I mean, get comfortable, everyone. So get comfortable. Now think of the state that you want to have. Confidence. I'm going to use confidence. I keep saying I use confidence. You can choose some other state. And then think of that event in the past that you felt absolutely confident. You may want to close your eyes, perhaps. Think of that time when you are absolutely confident. And I would want you to now think of the thoughts that you were thinking then. Hear what you heard. Whether yourself speaking to yourself, or somebody else is telling you something, or even the sound of where you are, depending on where you are, and see what you saw. Look at the colors, look at yourself. What are you wearing? Who are the people with you, if there's any? And most importantly, feel what you felt. Feel that confidence. Feel that confidence then. And when you have a strong feeling, do the anchor that you are doing right now. Does everyone spell nasi lemak? No, I hope not, unless you all are eating nasi lemak. That is just to break your state and come back to the present. So
Tuckman, just
now,
a question. I just thought of a question.
We have 42. We can do. Oh, sorry. Yep. What's the question?
When you were talking about this anchoring, right? Is it only about our body parts, or like, let's say, because I have this habit of holding a pen whenever I need confidence. Okay. So does that come into this as well?
Yes, you can anchor with pen, or just now the anchor was with a book just now that we did.
Okay, I got it.
So the thing is that just be careful with your anchor, because if so happen you don't have a pen with you at that time, you have lost your anchor.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
So yeah, sometimes I asked to speak over dinner. Oh, can
Okay.
somebody lend me a pen? Sorry, I can't speak without the pen. No,
Okay.
I'm just joking, okay? But
Mm.
just be mindful that whatever you choose, it can be an external object with you. That's fine. But the thing is that just be mindful that you need to have that if you really want to anchor at that time. I mean, a very common example is, if you read the law of attraction and all these things, they say that they have these magic stones. Actually, to me, those stones are actually anchors. You put in your pocket so that when every time you touch it, you actually feel that there is a lot of good vibes coming to you.
Yes.
That's not confidence. That's attracting the right things. But that's an anchor. I mean, if I may say so, I mean, the Chinese believe in those what do you call those things, like good Guan Yin and all these things. So now, also some believe there are religious reasons, but some of them is just probably anchor as well. Right. Now, in that exercise, I have only done this one round, but I suggest you do this 6 times at least. So you have this concept. I'm going to leave the deck in the chat group, chat box here, and then you can look at these steps and do this repeatedly, so that it is today you are doing confidence, tomorrow you may do another anchor on something else. Okay. Are there any other questions that?
There was a question just now from Wong. He was asking about what about hitting KPIs in the workplace? They was asking like how to actually handle or manage anxiety of hitting KPIs because the expectations are increasing.
Yes. Now, meeting KPI, to me, that's another aspect of this, which is not to, there's one aspect which is emotional, another aspect which is to do with productivity and how you go about doing a job, which it is nothing to do with anxiety or not. But the important thing is KPI, not meeting KPI. As an example, sales. A lot of salespeople not meeting KPIs, the sales target, is not because they don't have that ability. I'm assuming that they have the ability. It is because they don't make enough calls to the customer. And why are those people not making enough calls? Sometimes, not all the time, it is because of that fear of calling the customer. Picking up the call and doing a cold call, asking a customer to buy from me is scary. I mean, I have been in sales for many, many years. I know how I started this, like going into meeting a customer and only 1 in 10 of those meetings are successful, and I'm going to get kicked out. What do they think? So that fear of making that call, that fear of meeting the customer is something that we can control. Honestly, the sales target is a little bit more difficult because it's organization control. It is probably outside your influence. But how you achieve it by making sure that you have enough calls, you're brave enough to go out and look for those opportunities, look for those calls. That's the one that we can focus on in terms of managing anxiety.
So can I put it this way, like the situations can be any, It can be KPI, it can be presentation, it can be your personal life. Doesn't matter what the situation is. The reason why we can't do it is just because of our anxious feelings and our thoughts. So if we are able to conquer that, we can
Sometimes,
just do
yes.
anything.
So
All right.
yeah, yes, yeah, correct.
I believe
I
we
mean,
have answered Wong's question.
yes, correct. That's right. Thank you, Sangri. But there's another part which is belief, which is a big part. Maybe we can talk about that in another session. The belief in yourself. A lot of times we don't believe we can achieve it, something. So that is a big part in NLP, actually. Belief and belief change. You know, we believe that we are not a good presenter. Sometimes, you know, we are not good in math. We are not good in science. We are not good in speaking. Those beliefs are actually what holds us back. So in NLP, there is a big chunk, a lot of time spent actually when working with my clients is actually looking at those belief change. But this is not anxiety, but it is more beliefs, our own beliefs. So when we not meeting sales target, it can be beliefs or it can be anxiety. So it depends on where the issue. Sometimes it can be both, or it can be even be you don't have the skill to sell, or you don't have the facilities to sell, which the organization should provide. Okay. So when I saw this note that someone, this Nebel saying that, oh, literally me when I was during secondary school before, where she has to present. Nebel is, I think, is probably a she.
No, it's a he. It's a he.
He, sorry. So he's talking about, I think, his presentation. Oh, sorry, Nebel. So it is honestly very, very common. Sometimes we are ridiculed by the teacher, sometimes or more often ridiculed by our classmates then. And children are very cruel sometimes, and I was like, you did this wrong, you pronounce this word wrongly. So these are all things, and it may be a great presentation, and because you pronounce one word wrong, everybody picks on that one word, and the kids all laugh over that one word. And then in your mind, it's like, oh no, I need to sort of bury myself or something. I dare not face the world. So that's the approach. As I say, I'll leave this what they call deck in the chat group, and then we can actually you can actually do it outside of it. So in summary, before I do the further Q&As, what we have covered is what are common fears, and a lot of people seem to resonate with presentation to groups. And for some of you who are going out to look for jobs coming from university, probably interviews is one area, and recognizing them. First thing is, when you recognize them, then you know how to handle them and use this anchor to actually help elevate this fear and build your confidence. So that comes to Q&A. We have 8 more minutes. So Sangri, I mean, I know you sent through a list of questions. One of them is how to build self-confidence in new working environment. So I've covered that quite a bit in terms of, use anchor to build your confidence. Think back at a time when you really were confident, and then build on that. Now, how to resolve the anxiety of being scared for forgetting the lines when speaking? That's again very common. I just think that you forget the lines because you're anxious. So because you're so anxious, you forget, because nobody will remember you have forgotten one line or not. Well, nobody will know because nobody see the text before what you're going to say, and the audience will know. Only you remember that you have missed out. But as long as your key points are covered, that's fine, I think, in any presentation. Now, having said that, if you overcome the anxiety and you have confidence by anchoring, that will make your confidence level much higher. Now, I can also share with you a very, very quick one, which some people think is silly, but it is an NLP technique. And I will, because it only takes 1 minute to show you, is I'm going to do it. Before you go on stage, not during when you're on stage, I suggest, I'm sitting back now, extend your hand as wide as possible and look in front, and using a peripheral vision, look at your hands doing this, wriggling away. Now, this concept is called expanded awareness in NLP. If you do it on stage, it looks very funny. Okay. Well, probably that will be an icebreaker. But do it before you go in, and perhaps even the toilet if the cubicle is big enough.
Yes.
Extend your hand and then wriggle. And because you're focusing in front and then using a peripheral vision to look at the sides, you are actually getting the entire vision. And somehow, because of your focus at the environment, you forget about your own nervousness.
Oh, okay, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, and it's a very simple technique. Actually, it is used for something else as well, which I'm not going to cover. But since somebody brought up the question about going on stage, so that's why I want to use it. If you're not clear, go and look up expanded awareness in Google. I would think it would pop up. Expanded awareness. So you expand your awareness to the side. And even if you don't put up your hand, if you have too many people around you at that time, just look in front and then imagine yourself looking at the peripheral vision without your hands. You can still do that. Now, this is a typical Kung Fu move. You look at, if you see enough Kung Fu movies, they can sense the people attacking them from the side and even from behind. So that it is that concept, actually.
And I think for the questions, right, question 2 and 4 are quite similar. It's like how to write a script and how to memorize it, like forgetting lines.
Yes.
Can I add on something to this question?
Sure.
I just thought of it because I think most of the time people tend to feel nervous or anxious because they're scared of forgetting things while they're presenting. And I noticed this happen to a lot of my students when they're presenting as well. So what I usually suggest is that do not ever prepare a very long, detailed script. You know, I have this habit of preparing a script, but most of the time when I speak, everything changes. I don't really stick to the script because I only remember the key points. So although I have proper sentences written earlier, but when I speak, I just remember the key points. So those who are asking this kind of questions, I think you can just prepare script with key points, not exact sentences. That would reduce your level of anxiety.
Yes.
Do you think so?
I agree with you totally. You know, if you write out the entire script and try to memorize that script, you are trying to shove something that you have written back into your brain.
Yes.
That's stuffing, and that honestly causes more anxiety. And chances are, unless you're an actor talking
exact lines, exact dialogues. That is different.
Rehearsing that script 1,000 times, exact lines, I wouldn't suggest, and I wouldn't do that. But I do suggest you writing out what you want to say, either in point form, but if you want to, because like for me, when I'm very conscious of the time. So I want to rehearse that so that I meet that within that time frame. So it is good to sort of, right? But don't try to memorize it. The key points are very important. And then in 2 minutes, there is this thing that in NLP in speaking that we actually talk about. Start with why you're giving the speech, what does it entail, how you're going to do it, and what if scenario. I'm not sort of doing in 1 minute. So explain to the audience what you want to do, what you are going to say, and which I started off with saying those are the objectives, and then what you're going to cover, and then how you're going to do it, which is the anchor experiment, and then what if. Say what the benefit of having anchor is this. So that if you have that 4 key things in the presentation, you'll feel more comfortable and you will be less anxious. Now, I'm not going to talk about presentation, but this thing is about talking anxiety, but this is one of them.
Thank you. Thank you.
We are getting into the last minute. So I know
Yes.
you want to do something, Sangari, in terms of...
Yes. So I guess we have actually addressed all these questions, and for some of the other questions, you have also answered during your presentation just now. So I believe we have covered all these questions. But if the audience, you have any other questions, you may just type it in the chat box and we will look into it once we end this and we can reply.
Yeah.
So
yeah, sorry, Sangari, I sort of on top of you. I will put the deck into the chat group so that anyone who wants to have it can do that.
Yes. So once again, thank you, Chokman. That was a delightful presentation and a very interesting information. So thank you for that. I guess Mr. Chokman would be sending the slides that we have used today. And you can also use the steps that he has presented about anchoring in order to handle and manage your anxiety well in the workplace or no matter where you are going to be. Right. So I hope this would be a very useful session for you. And thank you for participating in today's webinar. We do hope to see you again in next time. And once again, I wish you a very beautiful morning and a fantastic day ahead. Stay safe, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for the time.